Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, it got to Friday at last. Anyway, it's going to be cold out there, so I suppose I better dress up out there. Yes, indeed. And talking of out there, and perhaps the potential differences between certain people that have to go out and actually do some work and those people who merely pontificate rubbish for a living, the news and the commentariat from the last 24 hours. We've had far-right violence in Northern Ireland. You can't describe it any other way. I wonder why that is, with their huge industry of their media, which has stoked up a lot of fears around migration. Anyway, yes, of course the UK press wouldn't do such things, but there is a sort of perfect storm brewing in and around mass migration figures, which we'll come on to, but probably aren't anything to do with this government, or at least the people pontificating about what this government needs to do ad infinitum, and certain Dutch politicians being elected and possibly taking over the country, which may or may not be a good thing. You can have a think about what certain people might have said about that. After all, we had a recent Argentinian bloke who was magically for 24 hours a brilliant Thatcherite until somebody woke up to the fact that having an extremely right-wing sort of proto-fascist in Argentina might mean issues for the Falkland Islands. Better send a warship. That is a lesson of history that somebody actually has taken on board. Anyway, so we end up with various commentators pontificating in the Daily Telegraph. Let's start with Miriam Gates. Yes, well, she's been an MP for about 4 years now, and she's very concerned with the number of babies being born. I think they need to be babies of a particular type. Anyway, she writes, mass migration is changing the nature of Britain forever. We must act now. Yes, because apparently her party, don't mention that, but anyway, haven't acted in the past, or they have come up with a scheme which is vastly expensive and illegal, which magically they're going to pursue. As you do, because obviously they're the sensible party. But I do love this. Conservative Party's failure to deliver on migration promises is more serious than not cutting taxes or taking far too long to build hospitals. Yes, do you see what that is? Yeah, do you see that the reason why they haven't managed to do these things is because they haven't managed to do all these other things. And it's not their fault they haven't managed to do all these other things, but they do need to do these other things. So you need to vote for them again so they can do these other things, even though they haven't done these things. It's really simple, isn't it? Yeah. Then there's Alison Pearson, a woman never knowingly right about anything ever, who is gushing about certain bouffon-haired people from the Netherlands. Will Britain soon get its own Geert Wilders? The big-haired Dutch politician has won over millions of reasonable people fed up with mass migration. Yeah, like Alison. She's a reasonable person who sits in an ivory tower and doesn't really have to do anything other than stir up racial tensions in the UK. Thanks, Alison. I'll live with that. Don't you worry about it. Yes, and then we have Fraser Nelson, another man who obviously is always right about everything. I mean, just look at him and Liz Truss. How right can you be? Mass migration is covering up the scandal of out-of-control welfare. Few politicians will dare to address worklessness when it's far easier to import more migrants. Yeah, you see? Now, the party that he insisted you needed to vote for apparently have been a bit rubbish. So I guess he's going to insist that you must vote for them again, because then what they'll do is sort out all of the problems they haven't quite managed to address in any form for the last 13 or 14 years. Yes, you see, we mustn't get any more brown people in, but we must force those people with Zimmer frames to go to work, because after all, that's what Fraser isn't going to do. I do love these people. These people live in a world where there is no connection between what they say and what other people do, right? You would be a fool and a communist to believe that. So, for example, I don't know, let's pick a name or two out of my head. There is no connection between Melanie Phillips writing what appear to be extremely right-wing, xenophobic things in the Times, and somebody like, I don't know, Andreas Breivik reading them, putting those things in his manifesto, and taking a gun and shooting lots of Norwegians. There is no correlation between those two whatsoever. Remember that the next time you're walking down the street and there's a mob of people burning something. These individuals merely trying to point you in the right way as to how you should vote. Okay? It's important you listen to them, because these people are always right. I mean, just look at where we are. No, don't look at where we are now. But if the people that they persuaded that you should have voted for had listened to them properly and not got rid of Liz Truss and all those other things, then we'd be in a completely different spot now, obviously. A land of milk and honey. And riots. No, not those. Anyway, do have a lovely weekend. See if you can get your head around it, because I certainly can't. It's astounding to me that these people have any form of living whatsoever. And yet there they are, just pontificating over and over again. Worse than me.